Hey, Michael. I'm excited for today because this is the first time we get to reverse it and I get to interview you. For those of you Hemlane users who don't know Michael, he is a successful not only a podcaster and author, but most importantly, a real estate investor. And like all of us out there, he started with one rental at a time and has built up his portfolio to how many properties now?
I think we're at 177 the last time I counted. Yeah.
That's incredible. And these are your own properties. And so I can only imagine how much hard work went into it. So I definitely want to be able to share your story with our audiences out there today. So I first want to start with your aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
So when you started your real estate journey, what was that first aha moment where it just clicked for you and you realized this was how you could get financial freedom, eventually quit your sales job? What was that moment?
Yeah. One of the things that you learn about real estate, if you get in the game and you're in the game 5 years or more, because I really think real estate investing, Dana, tests you. I think the first couple of years it tests you. It wants to see how committed you are. And my story is no different than most people. My very first tenant, I did everything right. Checked credit, uh, landlord reference, maintain income, all of these things. Unfortunately, on my application, it did not say, will you get divorced in the first month of moving in?
Oh, no.
That's not a question on my tenant application. And lo and behold, they got divorced. The wife and left about 2 weeks in. The husband was not happy. He stopped working, became what I call a professional alcoholic. And again, my real estate investing is in California. So um, we didn't see rent for 3 months, spent $1,000 on eviction. And then I remember walking into my unit and seeing wine bottles literally in the drywall, like he created his own, wine rack.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, I mean, that was quite the wake up call. And I remember vividly expecting my wife, Olivia, to say, that's it, that's enough, we're done, we're out. And she is smarter than I, much more, balanced. And she says, did we do anything wrong? The answer was no, right?
Yeah.
We did everything right. We ran the system, the credit, everything. Just got divorced, and bad stuff happens. Fast forward that individual house, which people can go look up, 1818 North Drive East 93703. We buy for 107. We end up selling it for 263. We do a 1031 exchange, and we into a multifamily that we still own today. So the first thing I want to highlight is real estate tests you. You're going to have bad stuff. Bad stuff happens. Learn the lesson. Don't repeat mistakes. But if you can stay in the game, magic happens. That one house, Norris Drive, has now kicked off hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, cash out refis or positive cash flow. It's now responsible for, 7 figures of our net worth across multiple units that were acquired because of it. So my first big aha moment was real estate tries to test you. The second one is if you can stay in it for 5 years or more, your chances of getting wealthy are really, really good. I like to tell people it takes 10 years to get wealthy. Might as well start today.
Yeah, I love that. And also the you didn't do anything wrong, I think is such a valuable insight there. Because you're right. Hard things happen, difficult challenges happen, but you really need to dissect and look at the data and the processes to say, was this just an anomaly, or is there something I need to fix in the process? And also be patient. It doesn't happen overnight. You are so generous with your time, Michael, so generous. Tell me what led you to share your real estate experience with others.
I think there was a couple of things. So first and foremost, I left my W-2 in the spur of a moment at 45. I had planned to work to 50. I loved my job. I would have done it for free. But there was a set of circumstances that came about that was like, this is not good for you and not good for me. So I quit on a moment's notice. And uh, I was getting depressed, Dana. I mean, the first 3 or 4 days you're excited. The next couple of weeks, you realize that none of your boys can go out and do anything because they're all working. You didn't have anything set aside.
Yeah.
You can, it's like, what do I do all day, right? In my ego, was wrapped up in my job. I liked being very, very good at what I did and highly paid for it. Um, so what really happened is I was sitting at my dinner or my kitchen table. It was a weekend. I think it was Saturday. It might have been Sunday. And I was depressed for the first time in my life. I'm a glasses half full. I believe life is far more enjoyable when you see silver lining even in difficult times. But I was legit depressed. So I remember thinking like, I'm just going to take one of these dozen job offers that I have on Monday if this doesn't get better. Because people were recruiting me and throwing big checks at me to come back to work, and I remember thinking, what a loser. You're going to go get a job at 45 when you can still travel and do all these great things. People dream about this. And you're a freaking loser. You're going to go back to work just because your ego. You're an idiot. Stop that. So pretty much right in that moment, I told myself, I need to revisit where we've been. I want to go back
Mhm.
to the moment I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, the moment I lost 80% of my net worth in the stock market, and document it. Because one of the things that is my failures, I don't have any pictures or selfies of Olivia and I standing in front of that first house or the second house or the third house. I would love to go back and be 30-year-old Michael and see that picture. So what I did instead is I wrote one rental at a time. It's not a how-to book. It's, hey, we just lost 160 grand in the stock market. We we need to do something different. We want to have a better future. And here we go. So that's what one rental at a time is. It's a 15-year look back of what happened, the good, bad, and the ugly. And that book poured out of me. It came out of me in raw form in under 30 days. It probably took another 30 days to edit and thousands of dollars to have a professional editor go through it. But it came out of me very quickly. And I was happy again. I was happy again. And I realized on a trip to Taiwan that there was a bunch of real estate channels. This is 2018. But none of the channels that I saw at the time had what I'll consider real decades experience. They were all young, in at least my case, young men who had 3 or 4 units. Nobody had been in the game, for at that time almost 20 years. So I said, you know what? Let's let's try something. I committed to doing a video a day while on the trip and continue to do that when we got back. And again, I found my joy. So the depression went away. And I'm like, okay, now what? So what I really came to the goal of, and I still have it today, is I want to create something that outlives me by 50 years, right? I think you die twice. There's the physical death, and then when people stop talking about you or wishing good for you. So I want to extend my life 50 years after the day my physical body gives up and moves on. So that's what I'm trying to do now. So that's why.
That's great. I don't think I've ever heard that about you or others. You're hearing about these folks who are trying to extend their physical life through science and new technologies. But I like that extending your life just to people knowing you and talking about you. You have over 170 rental properties. That is the dream for anyone out there to have such a large portfolio like you and that passive income. What is your number one advice that you could give to someone starting out in real estate, maybe has one or two, but aspires to get to 170? And I'm going to say quickly, because I do believe with a decade experience, getting to 170 is very quick. You kind of think if you buy a property a year or a unit a year, then you have 10, but you're at 170. So what's the number one piece of advice there?
Well, there's a couple that I want to leave you with. The first one is I very rarely talk about our unit count because I think it discourages people. I fundamentally believe if you can get to 4 rental properties, you're going to change your financial life and perhaps the next generation forever. If you get to 4 and you decide to get to 10, life can get really good. In fact, I think there's a lot of people that can get financially free with a dozen, maybe 2 dozen properties. So that's where I like people to focus, is because that's more attainable, right? It's more
Yeah.
visible. You can see it. I can tell you the way you get to a lot of units is you do this for a long time. You live in growth mode for 15 years. You do some 1031 exchanges. Again, I document this in the book, one rental at a time. In 2006, we had 8 houses. By the end of 2007, we had 80 units. How did that happen? Well, we sold the houses and we 1031 into apartments. Magic. No new money, no new capital, didn't cost us a dime. We just sold expensive houses and 1031 exchanged into multifamily. So we missed the housing crash. We saw pain coming. We got out and it was the right call. I had no idea how bad it would get. I knew it would be bad. I didn't think it would be that bad. But that's the key is if you're in growth mode, once you get some equity, you can do some 1031 exchanges. And again, we went from 8 to 80 in like 9 months with no new money. Yeah, it can happen.
Wow, that's incredible. What trends are you seeing this year that are affecting your rental business? Obviously, this has been a very interesting year with interest rates as the headline. What are you seeing that's affecting your business today?
Single family rentals are like legit single family homes are doing great for lots of reasons, right? The whatever you want to call that we just went through. People wanted space, they wanted an extra bedroom, they wanted a garage, they wanted a backyard. The home was the place they spent most of their time, and even including working. That hasn't changed. The desire for single family, fenced backyards, perhaps even fenced front yards, is rarely been higher. Now that mortgage rates as of today are over 8%, uh, it frankly makes financial sense for most people to rent versus buy.
Mhm.
So I think that's going to be the case. I think larger multifamily is in some significant trouble. I just talked to Jay Parsons, the chief economist at the Real page, literally just a half hour ago. And he's talking about all this inventory coming and things. So I think larger multifamily is in a little bit of trouble, but single families, especially at 8% mortgage rates, people are just going to say, you know what, we're going to leave the apartment and we're just going to rent a home. So I'm still looking to add a few single family homes to our portfolio as probably for the next 18 months or so.
That's great. That's great. And that gives new folks out there hope that, if you, who's such an expert, is looking at single family homes, still a good time to do that. There are some experts that say we're in the expansionary phase of the real estate market cycle. Do you believe that's true, that we've gone through the trough and we're in the expansionary phase at this point?
Um, I mean, I look at my market every day. It feels to me that we're in the bottoming phase. I don't know. But again, like I just had a conversation with a couple of mortgage brokers, and I'm like, I think existing home sales, which were just reported today at 3.96 million, I think they're going to go to 3.8. I actually think that's good news. Why is that good news? It's because in order to come back, you got to get to the bottom.
Yeah.
So we're almost there. I don't think we're in the expansion phase just yet. We're probably 3 to 6 months from finding a firm bottom. But the good news after that is you're at the bottom and we can start building from there. I'm not calling for any V-shaped recovery or even a U-shaped recovery. But we'll find the bottom, I think, in the next 3 to 6 months, which is important because you can't go up till you get to the bottom, in my opinion. So I think we're almost there.
Okay, great. How can Hemlane users stay ahead of the curve in this ever-changing real estate market? I mean, a lot of them still have their W-2 jobs. How can they stay ahead in this market that has changed so drastically in the past, 12 months here?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things Hemlane users should do, and that is, again, block out some of the national noise, block out doomers. One of the biggest things that people need to realize is your network will predict your future. So if you can find 4 or 5 people that are doing the work, talking about the real thing, not just living in this endless doom loop, you're going to make significant progress. So what I would tell people first off is to look at your feeds and block doomers. People that are just being paid to preach fear are not helping you. Second, stay close to your clients. Your clients are your tenants. What you will quickly learn is tenant turnover is a killer. Let's say it differently. This is not the time to go for max rent. This is the time to do the right thing. This is the time to, as Dion talks about, use the binder strategy, stay below market, do all of those things.
Mhm.
And Yeah, the people that will dominate the next 2 years are good operators. The people that won the last 2 years were lucky and financial engineers. People that are using Hemlane are going to be focused on being a good operator, staying close to the tenant, audit trail, pictures, all of those things. Then they have a buy box. They're doing the work. Um, the next 2 years, Dana, is all about being a good operator, and that's what Hemline allows mom and dad to do. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. You and I have both been huge proponents of long-term buy and holds. There's also been all of this news out there with Airbnb and crackdowns such as New York City on having Airbnbs. I don't think I've ever asked you why you focused on long-term rather than short-term rentals. I know that I think you've spoken about it from the Hemlane perspective, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. And would you ever consider short-term rentals?
So 2020, we actually considered it. We had a couple of units that we were acquiring that were in the right part of town that would have made great short-term rentals. Uh, in hindsight, we probably would have made thousands of dollars more each month. But if you guys don't know, even the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, treats short-term rental business different than long-term rental. That's because STRs are a business. It's a hospitality business. And long-term rentals is a passive investment. It's not really passive, but that's what the IRS says. And what really came down to is I'm lazy. I didn't want to spin up another business. I didn't want to set another process and procedures. I didn't want to do this. Dude, the thing that I hate the most, Dana, is tenant turnover. Why would I want to sign up for something that could almost have daily
Every three
turnover?
days.
Freaking
Yeah.
would drive me nuts. And I don't like working with the public, frankly, right? The public, lots of people are great, but you get that 1 out of 8 or 1 out of 10 that's just a donkey and destroys this, breaks that. Yeah, I don't think it's as easy as people make it look. And I had no desire. I had no desire in making my life hard. I like my life easy. So that's why.
Yeah. And I do believe when it's hospitality, it's an experience, right? So folks are expecting this 5-star experience. You see travelers anywhere they go in the world, suddenly they act so differently than they do in their home versus a long-term rental. It's their home. They're going to
Yep.
treat it really well and respect it because they have to live there every day.
Yeah.
I want to go back to new investors because you've
Sure.
helped so many new investors, one, navigate the real estate landscape successfully, make informed decisions. Tell us a little bit more about advice that you have for them.
I think the biggest advice for new investors is kind of twofold. One is you need to find your thing, right? I think a lot of new investors like, oh, short-term rental, long-term rental, flipping, Airbnb arbitrage, land development. Y'all are all over the place. So what I tell everyone to do is I think real estate investing is a skill. Because it's a skill, it can be learned. You can get better. Everybody can get better. So I think the key for new investors is creating what I call a buy box. It's a set of criteria that produces a list of 20 to 40 active listings. And the key to this is once the criteria is set, that's all you look at for 90 days. Why? Because you have to figure out the rhythm. You have to figure out the average for that, that buy box. What is the average yield or cash on cash or return on capital? Once you know what the average is, you can start writing good and great offers. The biggest thing about a buy box that most people don't get, and they fight me on this all the time, is buy box is permission to ignore everything else.
Mhm.
New investors don't know how to focus. Like I chose Fresno, California after spending a year in the Bay Area because I wanted cash flow. Bay Area doesn't cash flow. So the only way I could learn a brand new market of 1 million people that I've never lived in, I knew no one, is I had to figure out a part of town and I had to look at that part of town every day for 90 days. For me, that was 93703, 3 or 4 bedroom single family homes, 2 baths, 2-car garage. That's all I looked at. If it wasn't that criteria, I didn't look at it. And I did that for 3 years. So very quickly, I became the best buyer in that buy box. And most new investors are not that laser focused, but that's what it takes. Focus and daily discipline. Get better every day.
Yeah, I love the focus. I love the daily discipline. I also love just the data driven approach that every day you're collecting this data to look at the trends and really know your market.
Mhm.
Um, I I think I was first introduced to you in 2016. We had a conversation in your YouTube channel.
Chris Marat, I think,
Yes,
introduced us. Yeah.
yes, he did. And I think you had about like 1,000 subscribers.
In
And
2016, I didn't even have a YouTube channel. I
oh,
was
maybe
still
you didn't
working.
even have a YouTube.
I
Okay,
didn't.
so you didn't even have a YouTube. And now how many subscribers are you at?
We're knocking on the door of 53,000.
Wow, 53,000. You have done such a good job building your personal brand. What would you say to others of how you did it? And kind of built this brand where, you go out there and people know who you are, those who are looking to get into real estate. What tips can you offer to others about building a brand?
Yeah. So one of the funniest stories in the last 6 months, my daughter and my wife, Olivia, were having, I think it was lunch at a local restaurant. And somebody came up to us and basically, said, "Hey, well, I watch you on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Which was a great experience, took a picture and all that. And he goes away, and then Teresa looks over, who's my daughter, who's 32. She goes, "That's weird." That's weird. So yeah, it's happening more and more. People are stopping by and saying hi. So it's a good feeling. Um, but the key to doing a personal brand is don't fake it. I tell everyone, if you have a hobby, like if you're my age, or even a decade younger than me, you have a hobby or interest that you've had for decades. There is a way for you to create a brand. I don't care if it's Legos, classic cars, wine, Pokemon cards, whatever it is. If you have a passion and you can talk about it every day for 10 or 15 minutes, congratulations, there's your brand. That's the start. Where one rental at a time blew up, in my opinion, is I attracted other people who were willing to give me 30 to 60 minutes of their time, right? I call them millionaires, and you're one of them. You come on every Thursday at 8:30 a.m. for 30 minutes. You're the CEO of Hemlane, and you see so much value and you have the heart to give back. You give this guy on the internet 30 minutes of your week. You don't have to do that, but you want to because you want to help people get started. So I've been able to attract. I get asked now dozens of times to get people added. I farm people out. Most people get told no. So what's really made one rental at a time grow is the tribe of millionaires that we bring back every week. And yeah, it's definitely not me. We would not. I may not even have a channel, honestly, if it was just me. I love talking to my friends now. You and I talk for 30 minutes every week. It's awesome, and we get to see what's going on, check in with each other. It's a lot of fun. So talk about something you love. Find other people that love that thing. Just get started. It's that simple.
Yeah, and surround yourself by those people who have that passion, right? That's so great because I do think in real estate you do want to build your brand. You want to be the first that people talk to about new markets or anything, and make sure that you're thought of. And it might not be real estate that people think of you for. You're right. It may be your wine business, or I have a friend who makes salt. And every
Yeah,
time he goes to someone's house, he brings salt, but
yeah,
everyone remembers him from it, and everyone's using his salt every day and remembers who he is. And so building that personal brand, I think, is really important.
yeah. I mean, if I
Um,
was if I was that young man, I would have a YouTube channel talking about salt or seasoning. I'd get other people have seasoning. Uh,
yeah,
it would blow up. It would be that's just talk about what you love. The audience will see that. You can't fake it. You can't fake it. Talk about what you love.
totally. Um, I want to talk about emerging trends in residential real estate. What are some of these? You talk to so many people, to your point. What are some of the emerging trends that investors should be aware of? And
I
residential.
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing coming, and again, I love talking about things that I see, even if I'm not doing them. I think ADUs, accessory dwelling units, taking an asset, adding another income stream, even if you're living in your home, adding an income stream in the back. I think ADUs Because one thing is for certain, we have a housing shortage. We have an affordable housing shortage.
Mhm.
Um, so I love giving Gavin Newsom, you know, just grief because I'm not a fan. But what he's done in California around ADUs, I'll applaud. I think it's the right idea. I think other states are moving in that direction. So I think affordable housing is it's just it's just something we need more of. So whether it's ADUs or 3D printed homes or container, I don't know what it's going to be. We have to figure out a way to create more supply. The government does so much stuff for demand, they don't do supply. So sometimes it boils down to mom and pop landlords to think about ways to economically add supply, and ADUs might be the thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And a lot of that has to do with, to your point, the new regulations, regulatory environment, that is fascinating to watch and, get involved with. What are your predictions for residential real estate over the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, so I think residential existing home sales are going to flatline like we talked earlier. I think prices are going to be basically flat. I think prices could be flat for 5 years. Flat meaning plus or minus 1%. I think we got a decade of appreciation in 2 years. So what does that mean? That means it's time to do the work. It's time to find motivated sellers. There are still great deals to be had, but they need to be made. Buying stuff list price at 8% or 9% mortgage, don't cash flow. So
Yeah.
skill up, write disrespectful offers, ask for seller financing. And I, we're posting wins almost every day from people in the community. So I know it's possible. It takes work. Real estate investing is never easy. So it's just, that's what I see.
That's great. I definitely agree. Do the work now. Don't use this as an excuse. To your point, how can we better? This is my final question for you. How can we better help real estate investors prepare for the future?
I think where Hemlane focus is pretty good because you're trying to be that fulcrum or hub between all the relevant parties, right? Real estate investing is a people business. So anything that you could do to streamline, de-risk humans being humans is the place to be. Then you have these resources that you keep adding to, which is amazing. Most people probably don't even if they're Hemlane users, probably don't realize the value in your resources tab about what is going on in various markets. It's awesome. Um, yeah, it's a people business. So where Hemlane could add, um, help with the smooth line and audit trail. That's really where Hemlane started, was the audit trail. But now making it more efficient for two parties to communicate, and then give the audit trail. That's the secret to all of this.
Yeah. And I know I said that was my last question, but you've mentioned communication. What are you thinking with AI?
So I think AI is going to help with some monotonous things like leases, advertising. You're going to have to be very careful because AI maybe doesn't know the rules for your area, uh,
Exactly. Yep.
right? So that it's. I think there's a lot of sizzle today in AI. Both of you and I are in the Silicon Valley. We'll see where the stake shows up. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't over rotate to AI just yet as a mom and pop landlord. But there's some real things coming. Like you help me write an ad, and then you have to tweak it. Help me, do this or that. So it'll help. It won't replace. It's not going to replace. That's the big thing that people get wrong. AI is not going to suddenly replace 500 million jobs. It's going to augment. It's going to be a tool. And frankly, AI, just like a lot of apps, will create jobs because now you got to audit, you got to source, you got to do all these things. So I'm not a big fear monger around AI.
Yeah, you look at the past 100 years and so much innovation that has happened, but there's always been, with the exception of, the general cycle, the unemployment rate, three, give it 5%. And what has always happened with any type of innovation is, yes, some jobs change, but new jobs come. And I think that, is the exciting part about it, is that it's going to help make our lives, better. But I do agree with that assisted portion of AI because, they say can use AI for, driving a car. It's like, well, the margin of error is so slim that if something goes wrong, you could die, get in a crash. but can you use this for, and this is today, I'm not the future I'm talking about, I'm talking about like immediately today, but could you use AI to help with your communication with tenants? Yes, assisted, because you can read it and check it manually and say, yep, that sounds good,
Yep.
and then send
Yeah.
it. So I think that assistance at this point, AI assisted,
Yeah.
is what's most prevalent
Yeah.
today.
AI assisted is a great phrase. I would go out and trademark that. You have it. Go trademark that. AI assisted.
I sort of made that up, AI assisted. I don't know if other people use that, but there
Yeah.
you go.
There you go. Well, go trademark it. We'll see what happens.
Michael, thank you so much for your time today. This was so valuable. Really appreciate it and look forward to the next one.
Folks, if you haven't checked out Hemlane's POC, a proof of concept or trial, where can they get it? Just tell
You can go
everybody.
to www.hemlane.com.
Yep. Go get it. 14 days. Practice being a landlord. It's worth it. Thanks, Dana.